Top of the morning, folks. Today we're going to be pulling the engine out of this John so we can put a slightly bigger engine in.
I've been the bomb, make me reminisce upon. I remember me and Dog, swap me, Dickies on.
What was that, in 93?
You probably wasn't even born.
Dre, I think you need to trade the range for the 6'4".
I've been going back and forth.
I have most of the accessories and stuff pulled off. All that's left is 2 oil lines to the oil coolers, and then the actual bolts holding it to the trans, and then the motor mounts. But the previous owner didn't really put in the motor mounts. They're kind of, I saw the left one was missing and the right one was loose, so shouldn't be that hard to pull. Works for me. It's my first time under this thing too. You can see the janky automatic transmission fluid cooler. Like, holy shit. Oh, double hose tie though. Double hose clamp. So never mind. That's not jank. That's super sturdy. Definitely not just like fuel hose. Small oil leak. That's good. Make sure to keep it from rusting. Some real nice wiring from a O2 sensor and some automatic transmission controller, I assume. I'm gonna have to get some very thick springs for this, but yeah, that mount is in. That mounts in. So one of them missing the whole exhaust, which is okay, and then looks like the trans is good, which is good because I'm gonna be able to use this trans on my other car when I blow it up. Starter is wired up. Okay, I tried to start this once off camera. It didn't work. So I'm gonna pull the engine first and then try to figure it out, which might be the wrong order, but let's get started. So I got everything ready to go. I didn't take the banjo bolt off one of the oil lines. There's a quick disconnect on RX-8, so I just disconnected that. I haven't done that in the past, but this is a slightly different model engine. Within the 04 to 08 RX-8s, there's 2 different kinds, and the 3 ways I've learned to distinguish them is the oil lines, the AC pulley tensioner, and the crank angle sensor. So the crank angle sensor is still a reluctor, except the way they have it mounted is slightly different on the 2. I'm not sure which one's better. I just kind of think they changed it halfway through to like reduce price of the engine, because that AC condenser pulley on one of them is super bougie, and on the other one it's just like a plastic pulley. So I think they changed that just because it's like way cheaper to use a little plastic piece. The oil line, I'm not sure if it was just like for ease of maintenance, because this is a total pain in the ass. I don't know why they changed it to this, or maybe this is the original. I don't know which is which, but they all happened in 04. So let's pull it out. I should have taken the hood off before, but leave it to me to do that shit last minute, you know? I was gonna wait because that way it doesn't get wet while I'm doing the swapping stuff, but it needs to come out. not much of it's gonna be left with the V12. Not much of it's gonna be left with the V12 because we're gonna end up chopping about 80% of it out in the middle. But, here it is. RX-8 hoods are probably the lightest like mass-produced hood. They must weigh like less than 10 pounds. It's absurd. I was really hoping for a new clutch, but homeboy put something a little janky in there. There it is. In all of its 1.3 liters of terrible emissions choked glory. Nothing special. Pretty much bone stock. It even had the emissions air pump, which is hilarious because, and the stock OMP. So I mean, this, holy crap, dude, it was missing so much stuff. To get this car running the way it was, it would have taken a ton of work. So like a ton of money too. But yeah, this was the clutch in there, real crusty. Very unfortunate, because that's another part I would have used on my other RX-8. But honestly, this car has already given me its money worth. I used it, like, it came with a short shifter, which in and of itself is like $400, so that was dope. And yeah, we'll pull this apart. Hopefully it's got usable irons, housings, and rotors. I really doubt the housings, but if the irons are good, I'm gonna get them lapped, ported, and I'm building a really high compression, like, good motor, the way I should have the first time with my car. And then this is a blown trans. I think I'm gonna go ahead and just pull the trans out now too. There's really no reason to keep it in, so that boy's gonna come out. Beautiful engine bay, fabulous. This is a structural brace. We're chopping that out because the motor needs to sit all the way up to here, all the way to the bottom. The sway arm, stabilizing arm, that's gonna come out too because we can't fit that, so we're gonna get some stiff shocks up front. This is not gonna handle very well at all. It'll do burnouts and straight line pulls and probably drag like most street cars. That's not true. It's not gonna be that fast, but it'll feel fast and it'll sound like a Lamborghini, so what else could you ask for, right? And I really hope I don't have to relocate the steering arm or bend it out further. I'm hoping I can just keep that stock the way it is, hoping to keep brake lines besides this thing. The ABS module is gonna have to go because I need everything clearance, basically from frame rail to frame rail, like I just clearanced this computer. The power steering module and the ECU, which is gonna sit right there, should fit just like that, but you'll notice I cut a lot of it out. And then it should be able to come in. Should be able to just go in. And I know I'm removing this, it'll make it technically weaker, but I'm gonna brace to the engine at 4 points. Instead of just having 2 engine mounts like that, I'm actually gonna be bracing off the subframe and the actual chassis itself at 2 points. So that should help add a little rigidity up front. And then the strut tower brace won't fit because the engine sits even higher than the strut towers. So we'll probably brace something to the intake manifold. And the intake manifolds are quite rigid because that's where you lift the engine from. It's like 40 M8 bolts or something. So we should be chilling. Little by little, this engine bay is getting bigger and bigger. So I've dropped the sway bar. It's not out yet. It's still got the end links on each of the control arms. So we're gonna pull those out, but I need a little Allen key. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the trans out now. And if I can. The RX-8 and like a few other Mazda cars have a very strange way. It's a drivetrain bar, a drive bar or something. Basically the engine, transmission, and the diff are all linked together rigidly. So the trans isn't really mounted, like it's not mounted anywhere in the trans tunnel. It's directly bolted all the way back to the diff. It might make it a little bit easier to pull the trans out, so I'm gonna just chop this little brace out now. It's only like 3 inches, which is like average, but you know, I think we need something a little bigger. 4.5 inches, that's a little bigger. Eye pro, ear pro, crucial. Hey, that rhymes. Maybe I'll put that on a t-shirt and no one will buy it. A little grinding, a little hammering, and the support is out. It's not a super important piece of structure. I think the strut tower brace is much more important, but you know, we're gonna be replacing this with something very strong as well, and it served a purpose. So it's good to take it out, but not neglect it, you know? So you have the transmission, and instead of mating up right to the trans tunnel somewhere, it's got this beam, and that beam goes all the way back to the diff. Those 2, 4, and 2, 4 big 21 millimeter nuts. So we're gonna pull those off, and that's gonna get us to trans. The shifter is already off, so we don't need to worry about that. And there's no neutral or, what is it? It's not a speed sensor. I don't know. There's a neutral safety switch, and the drive shaft will just pull right out. So there's nothing except for these 12 bolts holding it in right now. There we go. I was gonna drop the trans out the bottom, but I figure this is safer not being able to lift something up than not being able to hold something up, in my opinion, because then you're dropping shit on the ground, not dropping shit on your head. There she is. J160, baby. Oh. That makes 2. Which means I actually have 4. Quite the collection. This one has a new clutch fork, which is, I guess, cool. Nothing really that special. And it rode through all the gears. So I assume it's a good trans. You can tell probably at a junkyard or somewhere. He like unbolted this and then started going at it with the angle grinder. Luckily they didn't actually get anywhere with it. It's not into the case or anything, so should be good for the next time I blow up a trans. Anyway, there it is. The pit for a V12 to fit. The V12 pit. So we've got the bash bar pulled off and this front section I lopped off, leaving just this big bundle of wires. This isn't super important because I've rewired my other RX-8. I put all the fuse box and the ECU box, power steering, basically all the electronics in the engine bay, in the like behind the or in front of the passenger seat in the glove box basically. But I don't want to do that with this car. So I'm gonna just try to bend it out in front of the engine. It'll look kind of silly, and if it looks too silly or if it doesn't fit, it's too dangerous, I'll move it back. But I'd rather not with this car. I want to keep it simple, and I want to keep the interior as nice as possible. I'm just looking at random alternators. Just what kind of gay Saturn?